They cut down my tree, claiming it was blocking our view. Outraged, I sued them for property damage and won a massive settlement. They begged, "We didn't know it was yours." I showed them the property line and replied, "Ignorance isn't an excuse." Their faces went pale as they realized they'd pay for every branch. I live in Asheville, North Carolina, in a house that's been in my family for generations. In my backyard stood a magnificent oak tree, planted by my grandfather over 70 years ago. This tree wasn't just part of the landscape, it was a living memory of my family's history. Its sprawling branches provided shade during hot summers, and its sturdy trunk was a playground for neighborhood kids. Every morning, I'd sip my coffee on the porch, looking at that tree and feeling connected to my roots. One Saturday morning, I woke up early, ready to start my weekend routine. As I stepped onto the porch, I was met with an unsettling silence. The usual rustling of leaves was absent. I looked toward the spot where the oak tree stood, and my heart dropped. The tree was gone. All that remained was a freshly cut stump, sawdust scattered around it. I couldn't believe my eyes. Who would cut down my tree without my permission? I walked over to the Hendersons' property. They had moved in about a year ago. Their house was positioned slightly uphill from mine, giving them a clear view of the Blue Ridge Mountains. I knocked on their door, and after a moment, Mr. Henderson answered. "Good morning, Mr. Henderson," I said, trying to keep my composure. "I noticed that my oak tree has been cut down. Do you know anything about this?" He hesitated, avoiding eye contact. "Oh, that tree? Yes, we had it removed yesterday. It was blocking our view of the mountains. We thought it was on our property." I felt a surge of anger but took a deep breath. "Mr. Henderson, that tree was entirely on my property. I have the land survey to prove it." His face turned pale. I apologize. We didn't realize. It was an honest mistake. An honest mistake that resulted in the loss of a century-old tree, I replied. Ignorance isn't an excuse for property damage. Determined to seek justice, I consulted with an attorney specializing in property disputes. He informed me that North Carolina law allows for significant compensation when someone unlawfully removes trees from another's property. We decided to pursue legal action. The court proceedings were arduous. The Hendersons' defense hinged on their claim of ignorance and the assertion that the tree obstructed their scenic view. However, as noted in legal precedents, ignorance of property boundaries does not absolve one from liability in trespass cases. The court found in my favor, awarding substantial damages to cover the loss of the tree and emotional distress. In the aftermath, the Hendersons approached me, seeking to make amends. While the financial compensation couldn't replace the venerable oak, it served as a stark reminder of the importance of respecting property boundaries and the value of open communication between neighbors. After the court ruled in my favor and the Hendersons were ordered to pay a hefty settlement, I thought things would cool off. I wasn't looking for a fight when this all started. I just wanted them to understand the damage they caused. But they didn't take it well. They paid the settlement. Yes, but they made it clear they weren't happy about it. At first, it was subtle. Glares from across the driveway. Cold silence when we crossed paths. I brushed it off. Then things escalated. One morning, I found trash dumped near the stump where the oak once stood. It wasn't random garbage, it was stuff from their house. Cardboard boxes with their name on it. Old food wrappers. I knew it was them, but I didn't have proof. I cleaned it up, made a note of it, and moved on. The next week, my mailbox was smashed. Not once. Twice. Both times in the middle of the night. I installed a camera after that. The footage showed a blurry figure in a hoodie. Could have been anyone. But the shape, the walk, it looked a lot like their son, Zach. He's 22, still living at home. Never had a job, always hanging around smoking near the driveway. I went to the Hendersons' door again. "I don't want this to keep going," I said. "But the trash, the mailbox, this isn't how neighbors act." Mrs. Henderson stood there, arms crossed. "You humiliated us in court." "No," I said. "Your husband cut down my tree. That's what started this." She slammed the door in my face. Days passed. I started noticing odd things. My garden hose had been slashed. Someone left dog poop on my porch again, clearly intentional. I didn't own a dog. Then it got worse. One night around 2 a.m., I woke up to flashing lights outside. My shed was on fire. I ran out with a hose. Neighbors came with buckets. Thankfully, we stopped it before it reached the house. Fire department said someone had poured gasoline around the base. Arson. On my property. Police got involved. They questioned the Hendersons, but they denied everything. Without solid proof, nothing stuck. But I knew it was them. That's when I decided I wasn't going to wait for things to get worse. I started keeping a record, photos times dates. Installed more cameras. Covered every angle. Front yard. Back. Even one hidden in the bird feeder. Weeks passed. Things went quiet. I thought maybe they got the message. Then, one rainy night, I caught something on the feeder cam. Zach. Holding a gas can. He didn't light anything this time, but he was there. On my property. Again. Trespassing. I took the footage to the police. This time, it was enough. They brought him in for questioning. Charged him with trespassing, and opened an investigation for the shed fire. The Hendersons lawyered up. The town started talking. I kept to myself, but word travels fast in small communities. Some folks took their side, said I overreacted about just a tree. Others backed me. And then a twist I didn't see coming, a new land survey was ordered by the Hendersons' lawyer. They were trying to find some technicality, some loophole. But that backfired. The survey revealed that not only was my oak tree clearly on my land, a section of their brand new stone patio, it crossed over into my property by nearly 4 feet. 4 feet. And they'd built it less than 6 months ago. After they cut down my tree. Now the legal tables were turning again. When the new land survey came in, I stared at the lines in disbelief. Their fancy new patio, with the fire pit, stone benches, and outdoor lighting, was built over 4 feet into my property. They didn't just take my tree. They took part of my land. I sent the findings to my lawyer. He was quiet for a second on the phone, then just said, "Well, they've stepped in it now." The Hendersons? They were livid. I got another visit, this time from their attorney and a neutral mediator. They asked if I'd consider selling them the small strip of land to resolve the issue peacefully. Said they'd pay fair market value, maybe even a little extra. I laughed. Right in the mediator's face. Sell the land you built on after illegally cutting down my tree? After your kid torched my shed? No. I wasn't being petty. This was about principle now. I gave them 30 days to remove the patio and restore my land. My lawyer sent an official notice. But they didn't budge. That's when I filed a second lawsuit. This one wasn't just about property lines. It was about encroachment, continued trespassing, and malicious behavior following the court-ordered damages. Then came the media. A local Asheville reporter got wind of the situation and wanted to cover the neighbor versus neighbor story for the evening news. They showed up with a camera crew. I didn't call them. But I didn't tell them to leave either. I told the truth, calmly, while standing next to the charred remains of my shed. The Hendersons refused to speak on camera. But they were watching. I saw the curtains twitch. Things got quiet again for a few days. Then, I found a letter taped to my back door. No envelope. No name. Just scribbled handwriting on lined paper. "You think you won? We're not done yet. Watch your back." I turned that into the police too. They couldn't prove who wrote it, but they added it to the ongoing case file. And here's where things really turned. A few days later, I got a call from a woman who lived a few blocks away. Said her name was Joy. She saw the story on the news and had something I needed to know. Turns out, 2 years ago, her daughter had accused Zach, the Henderson's son, of threatening her and slashing her car tires after she broke things off with him. She said nothing ever came of it because her family didn't want to stir things up. Joy had photos, police reports, statements. She handed it all over to me. My lawyer added it to our case, showing a pattern of behavior. That changed everything. Suddenly, the Hendersons were on the defensive. Their lawyer started calling mine, offering to settle. They'd pay for the tree, the shed, the patio removal, and additional damages. They just wanted it to go away. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Because during all this, something else happened. One night, when I was reviewing footage from my backyard cameras, just doing my regular paranoid routine, I noticed something strange. There was a motion alert at 3:17 a.m. on a Wednesday. I clicked the footage. At first, it was just dark. Then, two figures appeared. Flashlights. One tall, one shorter. They crept across my yard and stopped by my back fence, the spot right near the property line. They dug for about 20 minutes. Then they buried something, covered it with dirt, walked away. They didn't know about the camera in the bird feeder. I marked the spot the next day, called the cops again. This time, they showed up with shovels. What they pulled out? A metal box. Locked. Inside were old photos, papers, and a burner phone. The papers had maps, markings, copies of my house deed, and a list of my daily routine. What time I leave, what time I sleep, even what brand of coffee I buy. It was terrifying. Police opened an active investigation into criminal stalking. And the Hendersons? Let's just say when they were brought in for questioning this time, their lawyer didn't look quite so confident. The moment the cops pulled that box out of the ground, everything shifted. This wasn't just a petty neighbor feud anymore. This was serious. Someone was tracking me, watching me, planning something. And the deeper the cops dug, the uglier it got. Turns out, the burner phone had messages, most of them deleted, but some recovered. One text sent weeks ago read, "He deserves to lose more than a tree. We'll make him move." The phone was registered to no one, of course. But the location data? The tower pings? All traced back to inside the Hendersons' home. Police got a warrant. They raided the place at 6 a.m. one morning. I watched from my porch as Zach was pulled out in cuffs, shirtless, and screaming at the officers. His mother was in tears. Mr. Henderson just stood there, jaw clenched, not saying a word. Inside their home, police found more evidence. Printed photos of me. Copies of court documents with notes scribbled all over them. Plans. Even a drone they used to fly over my property. They'd been watching me for months. It was harassment. Stalking. Criminal conspiracy. The town went quiet after that. The news was all over it. Local dispute escalates into criminal case. Zach was charged. And since he was already on probation from a separate incident, Joy's daughter wasn't his first target. He wasn't going to skate this time. Mr. and Mrs. Henderson weren't charged, but they were publicly humiliated. Their reputation was in shambles. HOA was breathing down their neck. Their lawn overgrew. No one waved at them anymore. For sale signs popped up all around the neighborhood, but no one touched their house. And here's the twist most people don't know. I wasn't squeaky clean either. See, in the early days, when the mailbox was smashed, when the trash started, I got mad. Real mad. One night, I snuck over and keyed their car. Deep, sharp scratches across the side. I told myself it was just leveling the playing field. But it wasn't. It was petty. And when the police were digging through everything, I confessed. I didn't want it to come out later and blow back on me. They slapped me with a misdemeanor vandalism charge. Small fine. Community service. But it was a reminder. I crossed a line too. I let my anger turn me into the very thing I hated. But unlike them, I took my punishment. And I didn't stop there. I sued again. This time for the long-term damages, mental distress, and property encroachment. And I won again. They were ordered to pay more. A lot more. Forced to tear up their fancy patio. Had to get it done by a professional at their cost. Even the fire pit had to go. I stood at my fence and watched it all get ripped out, stone by stone. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. But I didn't look away either. And then, the final blow. They moved out. Quietly. No goodbye. No sale sign. Just a moving truck at dawn one morning. A week later, their house went into foreclosure. Rumor is they couldn't keep up with the legal costs, the fines, the payments. They lost everything. That old oak tree? Still gone. But in its place, I planted a new one. A young red maple. It'll take years to grow. Decades even. But one day it'll stand tall. Just like the one they took. And every time I walk past it, I'll remember the lesson I learned the hard way. Don't start a war you're not ready to finish. Don't think revenge comes without a cost. And never, never cut down a tree that isn't yours. Because every branch, every root, comes with a price. And someone always pays.